On the back of the news that Sartosa is making its way to Mortal Empires on the 31st, perhaps some Dogs of War action is in order. Certainly one of the most anticipated DLC packs in the trilogy, their addition would bring with it a host of new mechanics and wonderful mercenary toys to play with. And Kataf's Southern Realms mod, and closer to Tabletop Overhaul, gives us a fantastic look at a race that is quite unlike anything else in the Warhammer world. An army of sellswords and up-jump cutthroats from the city-states of Talea, the deserts of the forgotten Strigos Empire, and the distant shores of Ulthuan and Nagaroth. Many of these regiments you might recognize, from the pikemen of Ricco's Republican Guard to the Knights in Carmine, wielding their famed dual sword technique, but something terrifying is waiting on the winds. Asarnil the Dragonlord, Prince of Calador, banished from Ulthuan after the Fin of All Plains, who now makes his living with gold and glory earned on the fields of battle. And he's riding his legendary green dragon Deathfang, who, like every other monster in the setting, sounds like he was named by an edgy 12-year-old. And what Dogs of War army would be complete without the rivalry between the marksmen of Maragliano and Braganza's besiegers, hailing from the same Talayan city, amongst the finest crossbowmen in the world. Rows of pikemen regiments will provide some nice staying power and rank bonuses against the encroaching Beastmen horde, and some great sword units give the infantry some extra oomph in the melee grind. And leading the army, leading the Dogs of War into battle, is Borjo the Besieger, carrying a reforged cannonball that failed to penetrate his breastplate as his own weapon, and though he has a very small HP pool, it's a bit deceptive, because he can actually receive a huge burst of hit points that save his life if things are going very poorly, and obviously when you're wielding a cannonball, you're going to have quite a bit of armor-piercing damage with that mighty mace. The Al-Qatani Fellowship Pikemen and Voland's Venators, extremely good cavalry regiment in the back lines, round out the rest of the build. Very famous Dogs of War regiments right there. And the last one to die is a sissy. Words to live by indeed. So the Voland's Venators are an extremely good cavalry unit. They're going to be the punching power at the end of the battle with that hammer and anvil that will hopefully seal the deal and send those Beastmen hordes running for the hills. But across the windswept desert, wait the war hordes of Taurox the Brass Bull, a living embodiment of Khorne's fury, twice the size of a full-grown Minotaur, with 130 armor and the weapon strength to put Borjo into the ground in seconds. Now Taurox, of course, rocking with his Minotaur goon squad, and Cygors are quite a bit more terrifying from range and closer to Tabletop Overhaul, but a smaller health pool means you have to protect them. And with a green dragon on the prowl, it will need support or be ripped apart by the teeth and claws of Deathfang. The Beastmen have vanguarded here, more than 1,000 gores, all in hordes, and they're subject to Primal Frenzy, which means they will begin rampaging for a short period while in combat, receiving melee buffs and immune to psych, and all horde units will also receive an additional +3 melee attack and defense, as well as +10 leadership, so they get a lot of buffs when they're in those big units. So as you might expect, the battle will begin here under a salvo of crossbow fire from the Dogs of War, targeting the unshielded gores, of course, maximize that DPS as they charge in. Both Braganza's besiegers and marksmen of Maragliano are fantastic for killing low armor troops. They'll be able to chunk through those hordes quite nicely, but the Cygor, with some serious accuracy, which I think has been buffed quite significantly in closer to Tabletop Overhaul, absolutely smashing through those Pervice crossbowmen. In the center, you see the blood smears already spread all over the desert as the Beastmen close in, and they'll want to pull back or they're going to get run over real quick behind the safety of that shield wall, the spear wall, as another rock from the Cygor rips a hole in the center of their formation. Pikemen moving up now, and they will countercharge. I don't believe they're going to get a bracing bonus. I don't think they have a charge defense against all, just large, while Asarnil looks for an opportunity to get some breath attacks or maybe a rear charge to imbue some of that terror. Now remember, the hordes will be immune to psychology, so the terror won't necessarily be the most impactful thing, at least in the early stages of the battle, but Deathfang, looking absolutely amazing in that vibrant green color scheme, sees a bit of an opportunity here to unleash some of that godly strawberry milkshake breath. Gore herd smashed up against the pike wall, constricted in that press of bodies, and at the command of the Dragon Tamer, Farmalizer, and it's going to be death. Just absolute death for the Beastmen in that blob there. Not good to have a dragon on your flank when you're stuck up against a pike wall and blob like that, and Red Ruin is all that's left at the end of that breath. 104 kills or so on that single breath attack. And not a good way for the Beastmen to start the battle. But they do have a ton of numbers on the field. And they have the support from the Minotaurs and the Cygor as well. As the Swordsmen charge in, more Goreherd getting around the flank, engaging some of the Swordsmen out there, and they should be able to win that fight relatively easily. Swordsmen are not fantastic by any means. Pikewall seems to be holding quite well, though. There was some friendly fire from Asarnil the Dragonlord. Gotta be careful as one of poor, unfortunate SOB gets gored and thrown into the air by the Gore Bull in the center. And the Great Swords have moved up to help support as the Minotaurs charge to their own ranks and get into the middle of the Dogs of War line. The pike and shot working pretty well for right now as the Beastmen are actually breaking to the center though, and Borjo is in trouble, down to half HP. Needs to be very, very careful, needs some support or he could go down very soon, but he does have that health regeneration burst, so that could play a big factor if he manages to get it, as Asarnil decides to land in the middle of the fight. And that is where those natural weapons, those rending fangs and claws, can carve a path. Breath attack, gonna bathe the Horned Ones in some righteous flame. Guy has always been my favorite Dogs of War character, and so far, Asarnil is living up to the hype as Voland's Venators spring in their ambush now, pancaking some rallied Goreherd with a rear charge. They're rumored to be led by the bastard son of Emperor Karl Franz himself, and they're certainly fighting like the Reichsguard right now. They're gonna have no trouble making sure those Goreherd can't come back to the fight. And this has been a disastrous opening for the Beastmen so far. Their routing units have been run down by the cavalry, the mobility has been a big problem for them, and the breath attack from Asarnil and his dragon Deathfang have ripped a hole in their center. They're still fighting for right now, but if the cavalry is able to just continuously rear charge, get these Razor Gore off the field, and just keep smashing in from behind with impunity, there won't be much left. As the Cygor continues to fire in the back there, still protected by some Minotaurs, and now it looks like Taurox is finally moving up. And I think too much has been invested trying to protect that Cygor. Having a unit of Minotaurs with great weapons back there to protect it against the dragon makes a lot of sense, as some more Minotaurs get into the back and start ripping up some of those crossbows. The Pavis certainly going down there, don't want to be in melee, but Borjo has gotten a big burst of health in that duel with the Gore Bull. Very important right there, and yeah, he's invested a lot keeping that Cygor alive, which has been good because it's doing a lot of damage, but it's left his flank and rear exposed to cavalry charges who are just punishing the Beastmen over and over again. Really nice rock. That boulder just smashing into Voland's Venators, killing about 5 or 6 of them right there. And Knights in Carmine getting their time in the sun. Big charge here, and that enameled red armor. Dual swords gonna carve a path through these Goreherd as well. And it's been brutal so far, I'm not gonna lie. Beastmen getting beat up right now. It's been bad. And Knights in Carmine will certainly be able to beat them in prolonged fighting. That's what they're good for. They don't have great charge bonus, but they are great in a prolonged melee grind. Don't have armor piercing, but they are good at killing mid to low armored infantry. They'll certainly be able to do that. Taurox has made it into combat with the rune-tortured Axe of Khorne. And he's going to do a lot of damage here. Pikeman will have no chance. Again, he has like 470 weapon strength. 64, 65 melee attack. Will absolutely smash through Borjo if he can get there. And Deathfang and Asarnil letting it rip again right into the Cygor. And it only has 4,000 HP, so that breath attack does about 1,500 damage off the bat. Charge in. Needs to be very careful because those Minotaurs are close by, and those great weapons would be able to chunk down the Star Dragon, or Green Dragon rather, very quickly. But supported by the Knights in Carmine, they're going to try to finish off the Cygor as the dragon pulls away. And those Knights in Carmine won't want to stick around either, as crisscrossing shots from the Brigantes Besiegers and Marksman of Miragliano getting some good shots. Borgio just routed, almost dead to the Gore Bull there, and almost dead to Taurox. He's going to need to pull away and might not rally, which would be a big deal if they lost their general here. But Dogs of War still seem to be doing alright right now. Some more routing units coming back to the fight, and the cavalry still circling like sharks in the water, waiting to run down whatever decides to come back to the fight and prey on the weak, prey on the helpless. There's no coming back for them. And that dragon looks hungry, looking for some lamb chops to snack on. Combined arms tactics have been overwhelming here from the Dogs of War. Just a really solid army to counter what the Beastmen brought. But at the same time, I think this was kind of a case of going into a battle with a predetermined strategy and being too locked in with it, which is a problem I've had myself numerous times. Lost plenty of tournament games for Shogun 2, Rome 2, and Warhammer because of that. But what happened his Vanguard deployment was completely at odds with his protection of the Cygor, which he put a lot of investment into keeping alive. And as soon as the match started, seeing the Dogs of War had no artillery, no long-range weaponry, there's no reason to commit to a melee rush, right? You pull those Vanguard units back, give the Cygor some time to fire, keep your units closer, and I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping Minotaurs in the back to protect it, but that means they can't be halfway across the map while your infantry line is being ripped apart. And one final breath attack, scorching the flesh from the Cygor's bones. Huge target, not moving, just gonna gobble down that gorgeous flame, and that will be the end of the monster, and pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the Beastmen here. Now again, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Dragon Breath attack doing 1500 damage. That seems pretty reasonable in terms of DPS, but when the Cygor is a single entity, when it's huge like that, the entire breath attack will hit, and at the same time, of course, the fact that it has a much lower HP pool than it has in vanilla means that when it eats those to the face, it's not going to be around for very long. So 2, almost enough to completely kill it there, and the last one did manage to bring it down as Ricco's Republican Guard push forward with their pikes. They're going to eat it, and I would be very upset if I was one of them and had to be thrown into some very angry Minotaurs at the end of a battle when I've pretty much survived all the horrors that we had to deal with, and then deal with the stragglers and still end up dying in a horrible manner. But that will be the final route as the Voland's Venators get a rear charge in and seal the deal with yet another hammer and anvil. So, yeah, that one was a little bit rough for the Beastmen. I think that they're completely fine in the matchup. To be honest, I haven't done a lot of Dogs of War versus Beastmen matchups before. Pretty sure Beastmen can win that. They're a very strong faction, but I think that the Vanguard deployment, having the infantry line so far up, meant that the Minotaurs couldn't support very quickly, and it meant that all the really expensive stuff was there in the back, far away from the melee engagement, and it was just kind of at odds. So best thing that could have happened there was you pull the infantry back and just not engage until the Cygor's used more of its ammunition. Once crossbows move up, then you can. So looking at kills here, Asarnil the Dragonlord kicked serious ass up and down the field. 151 kills, and some of that were on Minotaurs and Cygors too. Voland's Venators up to 174. Knights in Carmine. The cavalry and the mobility of the Dogs of War there definitely made a huge impact in the battle. The infantry did fine. Some of it actually did pretty well, but certainly were not the deciding factor there. Their whole purpose was just to hold so the Cav could deliver that hammer blow to finish the deal. Borgio did not have a fun time that game, fighting Gorbals and Minotaurs. He died pretty quick. He didn't actually die, he just routed. But yeah, he did not have a good time, even though he got his full health regen back. And looking at the Beastmen, Minotaurs did a lot of work in the center, but they got there a little bit too late. And again, that was part of the problem with keeping some of them back there to protect that Cygor. Hold on to the Cygor, fire from range, let it shoot some more, and I think he would have done a lot better there. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time. Any Pride? Signing out for now.